All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the great American novels. It's all about a journey down the massive Mississippi River with a boy who is just desperate to find a way out. This quote right here, it just perfectly captures our hero, Huckleberry Finn. He's not looking for fame or anything like that. Nope. At his core, he's just a kid who feels completely trapped and is just desperate for something, anything new. And you know what? That simple desire for a change, that's what kicks this whole incredible adventure off. So, Huck's story kicks off with a pretty daring escape. But here's the thing, he's not just running from one prison. He's actually running from two, and they are completely different. And both of them, well, they really show the hypocrisy of what he calls civilization. Okay, so you've got these two extremes, right? On one side, there's the widow Douglas. Her whole world is just rules, rules, rules. You gotta sit up straight, say your prayers, learn your spelling. It's safe, sure, but for a kid like Huck, it's completely suffocating. And then you've got his father, Pap. And this is a whole other level. We're not talking about rules here. We're talking brutal, violent captivity. The guy literally locks Huck in a cabin and just flies into a rage if Huck tries to better himself in any way. It's like one is a prison for his soul and the other is a prison for his body. So, stuck between these two impossible worlds, what does Huck do? He picks a third option. He gets out. And how he does it is just wild. He actually fakes his own murder, right down to the last detail. He even uses pig's blood to make it look real. Then he saws his way out of that cabin Pap locked him in. And just like that, he's finally, truly on his own. So, where does a kid on the run go? For Huck, it's Jackson's Island, this little patch of wilderness right in the middle of the river. He thinks he's found his own private sanctuary, all alone. But turns out he's not the only one there who's running towards freedom. And who does he find there? A familiar face, actually. It's Jim, who was enslaved by Miss Watson, the widow's sister, and Jim's got his own desperate reason for being there. He overheard that he was about to be sold down the river to New Orleans, which would mean being separated from his wife and kids forever. So just like Huck, he lit out. And on that raft, just floating down the Mississippi, well, they find a kind of paradise. This quote really says it all, doesn't it? They're finally away from all the rules and the violence of the land. They just live this simple, peaceful life, lying on their backs, looking up at the stars. The river becomes their sanctuary, and they build this incredible bond. But that kind of peace, it just can't last. It seems like every single time their raft touches the shore, that corrupt, violent world they were running from just comes rushing right back in. A perfect example of this is when they're taken in by the Grangerfords. This family seems like the definition of civilized, wealthy folks. But underneath it all, they are locked in this absolutely bloody, generations-long feud with another family, the Shepherdsons. And the way it's explained, it's just a cycle of killing for the sake of killing. Get this, nobody even remembers how it started. It's that so-called civilization at its most brutal and senseless. So after they barely escape that whole feud, a brand new kind of trouble literally floats right onto their raft. We're talking about two con men, a couple of real characters, who claim to be a down-on-his-luck duke and a long-lost king of France. And just like that, they take over Huck and Jim's floatin' sanctuary. So these two guys, they basically make a living by cheating the people in all these little river towns. And their masterpiece scam? It's called the Royal Nonesuch. And you've got to admit, the plan is kind of genius in how cynical it is. Here's how it works. They advertise this supposedly thrilling, scandalous show, and they slap "ladies and children not admitted" on the poster. So of course the place is packed with curious guys. The show is literally just the king, painted up, crawling around on stage for like a minute. The audience realizes they've been had, but they're too embarrassed to admit it. So what do? They go out and tell everyone else in town how amazing it was, just so everyone else gets scammed too. It's a perfect call-in that plays on people's curiosity and their pride. But the thing is, their scams just keep getting darker and darker. It really hits a low point when they try to steal an inheritance from a bunch of orphaned girls. Huck actually manages to stop them, but right after that, the king and the duke do something that's just completely unforgivable. For $40, for 40 dirty dollars, the king sells Jim. He sells him back into slavery. And just like that freedom they found on the raft, it's just shattered. Jim is back in chains. And this question you see here, that's basically Huck's conscience screaming at him. See, everything he's ever been taught his entire life tells him that helping Jim is a sin, that his duty, his moral duty, is to write a letter to Miss Watson and tell her where her so-called property is. He is completely torn between what society says is right and what his own heart knows is right. And then Huck makes his choice. He actually writes the letter. He sits there with it in his hands, but he can't bring himself to send it. He thinks about all their time on the raft. He thinks about Jim not as property, but as his friend. And then he tears that letter to pieces. He decides right then and there that he will save his friend, the only real family he has, even if it means he'll go to hell for it. It's just one of the most powerful moments in all of American literature, hands down. So, having made this huge decision, Huck heads straight for the Phelps farm to steal Jim back. He's got a mission. But just as he gets there, who shows up out of the blue? His old friend Tom Sawyer. And you just know Tom's arrival is going to complicate things a lot. And right away, you see the huge difference between these two boys. Just look at their plans. Huck's is simple, it's practical, get the key, unlock Jim, get on the raft, and go. It's based on, reality. But Tom's plan? Oh man, it's this ridiculous, cruel fantasy he ripped straight out of his adventure books. He wants to saw Jim's leg off, bake a rope ladder into a pie, and smiggle snakes and rats into his shed. It's insane. He's treating a real man's freedom like it's some kind of fun game. So, after weeks of putting Jim and everybody else through this completely absurd and dangerous charade, which, by the way, ends with Tom himself getting shot in the leg, Tom finally reveals the truth, a secret he's been sitting on this entire time. It turns out Jim was already a free man. Miss Watson had actually died 2 months earlier, and in her will, feeling bad about her plan to sell him, she set him free. And Tom Sawyer? He knew. He knew the entire time. That whole elaborate, cruel, dangerous game was for nothing. It was just for his own entertainment, all at the expense of a man who wasn't even enslaved anymore. So, with Jim finally actually free, and the threat of Tom's Aunt Sally wanting to civilize him, Huck's story ends pretty much where it began. He can't stand it. He's been there before. He rejects that settled, hypocritical world on the shore and decides he's going to light out for the territory. He is still searching for that change, for some place where he can be genuinely free. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Can a place like that ever truly be found?